How are you?
I'm okay, man. I'm Wait, so did you figure out how you can describe yourself?
I was talking with a friend who just logged in
Huh?
about a concept that I was handling about 2 years ago. It was called urban shaman. This is a person who walks in the cities and talks about the cities and likes the cities and tries to elevate the vibration of the cities in general. And I fancy myself as something like that. I've been talking about myself like that for a while, and I think it beautifully describes at least a part of what I do, a significant part of what I do, and how I live, which is even more important because I that's how I experience my city, and that's how I experience my life in general, like here in Venezuela. Um, so it's really good to have this connection to these energies, these ancestral or natural energies, very connected with the animals and and nature and spirits, but also connected to technology and to physical structures and buildings and houses. Because I think most of us live in this artificial world. Most of us live in cities or in even in sparsely urbanized centers. You need to have an organization. You need to have buildings. You need to have shelter. You can't live in the caves, right? So when most of us live this way, so I think exploring the world this way is very useful to us because it improves our connection to our home,
Hmm.
to the places we live in, as at a structural level, even architectural level. You see the landscapes, or for instance, my city, Caracas, is very chaotic. It's developed very rapidly.
Hmm.
And there was a point in which there was really big development, and the stark social differences became very pronounced. And then we have a lot of slums around the city and inside the city. Very big slums. Actually, Venezuela, I think, has the biggest slum in Latin America. It's called Petare, and we are very close from there. And it's really big, and it's always been difficult to live there. And it's been a source of many pains for the city in general. It's really big, and it's mostly populated by Colombians, not Venezuelans, or descendants of Colombians. So it's cross culture all the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but when did the development start though?
Around the 70s, there was a boom, an oil boom, and the country benefited greatly from it, economically speaking. And there was a lot of infrastructure, but there was a lot of money in the streets as well, and a lot of people who needed homes. And the government was unable to provide for them, so they started building themselves in parcels which didn't belong to them at all, or belonged to one of the family members. And eventually it became so big that, well, it becomes an urban problem. It's very peculiar because some years ago I was involved in a project documenting the city and documenting some particular figures in the city, important figures nobody knows about. And it was really beautiful. And there was a point in which we interviewed an architect um, from the School of Architecture in the Central University of Venezuela. It's a very good school of architecture here, and there are a lot of brilliant architects from that school. And this was a teacher there. He's now in Spain, I think, and he had a theory of how to deal with slums. architecturally speaking, from an urban perspective, like healing the slums by integrating them. And it was really beautiful. And it was based on the idea that the slums were an anomaly similar to a disease in a physical body, but from an urban perspective. Like this is a problem of public policies. This is a problem of infrastructure. It is a problem of government competence, of expertise, of skill. And it's a problem that you can identify as a biological issue, because this is humans who are living in this condition, and these are very dangerous conditions. These are very unsanitary conditions. I used to live in a slum myself, so it's really difficult to live there because transport is non-existent or very poor quality. There's no running water. There are no electricity lines. There are no telephone lines. Most of the people living there don't have internet access or even a decent phone. A lot of people there are a lot of people who live in these places who have never ever seen the sea, and Caracas is right by the sea. See, they've never left their slums.
Why though?
And it's very
yeah, because even if you
it's
don't have money,
very
you can walk or something, right?
yeah, but it's an issue with fear. I think it's partly fear, because there are places in this country, and there are places in many places in the world actually who aren't actually under the authority of the state. They are actually under the authority of other institutions or groups or organizations, and they are unlicensed, they are unregulated, they are in no one's land except these guys who control the place. At some point, Chavismo here, the regime, who is still technically in control of Venezuela, they created a concept called zonas de paz, peace zones, or zones of peace. The idea was that you give these people autonomy, and then you can create some sort of dynamic where it's easier to control crime. What they did was empower gang lords who were very powerful, who had a military grade armament, who have actually, because they do, they are in control of prisons, and they are in control of many slums. And they are in control of very important and difficult areas, such as the Bolivar mining arc, the gold mining arc. It's a very difficult situation there. A whole level of human rights violations there, but it happens in the city as well. And there was like a ring of fire in the city. It still exists, but it's a lot more subdued now because these people. What would you want to know?
It's a ring means like it's a circle shape or.
Yeah, there is an area that
inside is part of that or not really. Inside is.
Yeah, because these are huge slums which are next to one another in a very specific area, and it's a really big area of the city. It's to the southwest of the city, and all of that used to be very dangerous. I don't know how it is right now. I haven't been there for a while, but when I was to one of these zones, well, I actually have a friend in one of these areas, and I don't feel as unsafe there as I used to. So that changed, but there are still criminal gangs there, and there are still this autonomy, which is actually crime control. The criminals are in control of everything. And there are places in the city as well. There is one place particularly, which used to be a very dangerous slum. Very shootings every day. A lot of people lost their sons and lost their families, especially mothers. There were mothers who lost a son every week, so 3 sons in a row. Um, and they figured out how to work that out. They dismantled gangs in their area, the women, and they completely disarmed their area, and now they rule that area. And it's a very peculiar project. It's a very powerful project. The church was involved, and it is a very emotional story to read. I had the opportunity to read it because someone chronicled it, and it was beautiful. And it's not the only place it's happened before. So there are ideas to promote that in slums everywhere to dismantle crime. I think it's already in work in some way. So yeah, it's urban shaman. It's this connection with these things, with these phenomena that I think happen all the time in more places than this, and it's a very powerful experience to promote this connection with the city, with the spirit of the city, the places that we inhabit, that we feel with our emotions as well, because we imbue our emotions in these places. We create them all the time. When we wake up in the same room and not the same room at the same time because we are different. Yeah. So the same with the cities. And I've had a very profound experience with Caracas specifically, and with Venezuela in general, structurally speaking, because I've used Caracas in my own narratives, in my own storylines, and it's worked really well. And it's revealed to me a lot of information, a lot of insight about this relationship with the cities, but also this relationship with ourselves, because we are a city, or we are a constitution of cities, which we call all organs, and this constitution is our physical body. If we have a better connection with physical entities, we have a better connection with our bodies as well. At least I've found that, because I've been trying to see. I've talked about this before with you. These nodes of energy, like these places where energy is stored and energy is connected, and I know that these places that we call chakras, or these organs, these areas of flow, are like these nodes of energy. And they store energy, they process energy, and they emanate energy as well. They are creative in their own form, and they transform all the time, because we are transforming all the time. So if we have access to these nodes of energy, if we have access to these places, these kind of monuments or pillars, which are principles of our constitution, our physical constitution, and are also principles of the world's constitution, the physical universe's constitution, as above, so below. So if we understand our bodies, we understand the physical reality we inhabit. And if we understand the physical reality where we live, we understand our bodies better. And we understand, therefore, our spirits and our emotions and our minds better. And I found that it's true. I live that way, and I think urban shaman is very nice, has a very nice ring to it, I think.
You said urban?
Yeah, urban
shaman. I'm not always sure how to use these words, but when I heard that word too, I was like, oh. Yeah, I've heard it before, but I didn't know if it was actually a term that people use or not. But what you're saying about the like chakras of the city or something like that, it's like the city is a reflection of the individual, and the individual is a reflection of the city too. And I felt that a lot when I was traveling. So I would stay somewhere for 6 months, and then I'd get up and go somewhere, and I'd spend 2 months in another city, near the ocean or somewhere deep in the mountains. And when I came back, it was just like I felt like a totally different person with different energy, and I was kind of sharing that information from somewhere else, even if I didn't talk about the place. And even when I came back to Japan, oh man, I felt like I downloaded all this stuff that wasn't here, and I was kind of I don't know, tasked with, or like just kind of able to um, spread it to people here a little bit. Even now, I feel it. Like the energy that I kind of give off in Tokyo is not Tokyo at all, and I think it might confuse some people, but I think it mostly makes them curious and just slightly confused maybe, but yeah, but it can lead to, like, I noticed like a lot of the social rules. I mean, foreigners in general don't have to follow them, but I try to. But actually, nobody expects me to. Not just because I'm a foreigner. Even like the rules for foreigners, like they don't apply to me, because whatever energy I'm giving off, it it's not the same. And so
It's not the same.
yeah, because I'm carrying that old energy from the seaside and from just jamming in friends' houses and stuff. And now, even though I live in this place with like tiny apartments and you know people working really hard and wearing suits and very straight faces all the time, it's like it's not what I'm experiencing at all. And I feel like the people around me pick up on that, and sometimes they kind of absorb it a little bit, and I notice it in them a little bit. And I notice, the same thing happens with friends too. When they go travel, I can pick up some of that energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and something I noticed recently, you talked about how Japanese youth in general is opening up, like exploring new things.
Yeah.
Okay. And recently I watched a TikTok from a guy in Japan dancing in the street.
Mhm.
And I've never seen that before.
Uh,
Really never seen
a-
that before.
Actually, though, that's not a new thing. Um,
Oh,
I
wow.
think the difference now is the way people will enjoy that and the way people interact with that. For I don't know when it started, because the first time I came here was 2008,
Okay.
2007. I came for a trip first, and then I came to live here in 2008. But at that time, the first thing I experienced in Japan was the drum circle in Yogi Park, the big park in the center of the city. I heard this beat, and I was like, I have to find that beat. I can't not find that beat, right? And so I walked for like 20 minutes to find the beat, and I saw no, first it was a trans party in the park, and then I found a drum circle like on the other side of the park, and I was like, I'm in heaven. Like this is perfect. And I fell in love with Tokyo at that time. And I think that
Wow.
feeling of Tokyo is still inside me whenever I think of Tokyo, but they actually made it all illegal now. So the drum circles still, I think, happen at least before Corona. I think now you can still find drum circles in Tokyo, but in the park, in this one park. Um,
Okay.
but most things, a Cirque du Soleil opened up around there, and after that, the police came and shut down. There used to be bands playing around the park. There was just so much music, and they shut down maybe 80% of it.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah. But the thing about that was, it was very restricted to that area. It's very restricted to certain kind of tourist areas, or just like youth areas, I guess. I live at one of those stations too. There's like three or four stations that are known for that and a little bit less busy.
Okay.
But everywhere else, it's totally unheard of. It's just these specific areas. But the real difference is how people um, look at you, and the way people kind of smile, and they show facial expressions where they never did before.
Oh, wow.
Because like when you went into a convenience store before, it would be like kind of robot mode. People wouldn't make small talk with you, and they still generally don't. But like, you hear them talking to each other a lot more, and if you
Okay.
start to talk to them, they don't freak out. Whereas before, they'd be like, "Why is this person
Okay.
talking to
Okay.
me? Why is right?" And
Okay.
also, you can find it when you ask people a question, like if you need directions or something. they don't tense up the same way that they used to, whereas before it could make people really nervous. Yeah. So that kind of
Wow.
thing has changed a lot.
Wow, it's weird that you talk about this, and my experience is so far apart from that.
Well,
It's not even close.
what do you mean?
Because people here usually don't tense up with anyone. It's
Sure.
just everyone talks with
Mm.
everyone. It's ridiculous because you can be in the subway. You can be in the subway.
Yeah.
And I had this experience recently, which was very beautiful to me. There were four guys in front of me, different ages, and there was one guy beside me, an old guy, right beside another old guy, and the one sitting was the oldest, and also the most talkative. And they gave me some insights about how money is working here, which were very weird. I still don't know what to do with that, but what I was fascinated with is the way they were talking to each other. Because I always notice that I participate myself of this constant talking with strangers in the street and the subway and long trips to other cities and in general. But these guys were just laughing with each other.
Mm.
And the rest of the wagon also laughed in a way with them, and that was really amazing. And I see it happening more and more here. It used to happen a lot already, but there was a low point, because we were all demotivated. There was no inspiration. There were years of complete dread for the future. We didn't know what to do with anything. Lots of people leaving the country as well, and it was very demoralized. So people didn't talk to each other. People didn't just laugh in public places. But that changed completely. It's completely different now. And one thing that I find most amazing is that I can now walk with my camera, my Nikon, through the city and take pictures. I can do that. I couldn't do that before. I haven't tried in the most difficult areas yet, because I don't want to tempt the fate either. But I've tried it and it's worked. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel like I can lose my stuff. I don't. Everyone is pulling their phones in the subway. That was unheard of here. So you tell me about this change in Japan, and I feel very glad, because I think there are many countries who need to share up a bit, and Japan is probably the main one.
Yeah.
Followed right back.
Yeah.
Germany. So they both need to share up.
Yeah.
Like really urgently.
Yeah.
Because they are leaders in the world. They know a thing, very specialized thing, or a very specialized trait of life that is unheard of in any other place in the world.
Yeah.
So they need to cheer up and start sharing it and then start walking out. So I'm really glad that you tell me this, because I think my country and Japan are connected profoundly.
Really?
Yeah, I think there will be a point in which we will trade places. Like come from Japan to Venezuela, and let's go from Venezuela to Japan massively, because
like
we need to share this stuff.
Migration,
exchange and stuff. It already exists. The Japanese embassy is very active here, and it's been active for years.
Okay.
And there is a foundation, the Minon Foundation. My sister knew them because they hosted an event on Japan, and she attended with a traditional group where she sings. And they are very active with the embassy here in Venezuela as well. I recently saw a post on them in Facebook, and I was, wow, I didn't know these guys were here. And there's a very beautiful connection with the Japanese community. And I think it's only grown, because I've seen Japanese here, and I had some very beautiful opportunities to to just go deliver stuff to the embassy, like letters and stuff. And I experienced the process of entering the embassy, which was very, very strict, of course, as you would expect. And it was the first time I entered an embassy. So I was literally in Japan for a few moments in my life. And the way they treated me was very mindful. Like, it wasn't alert, it was mindful. Like, I was acknowledged. And it fills me with joy. Right now I feel moved by that, because now I realize that I've been acknowledged. And I think we need to acknowledge each other in the world in general. The entire human race need to acknowledge each other. Like, you are a human being, you are a human being. But I think these two cultures, Latin American, particularly Venezuelan, and Japanese, have a very profound connection right now, spiritually profound. And I feel this connection with Africans too. I wish to visit Africa at some point in length. I have already seen it in a way. I had a very beautiful vision about Africa in a dream. And it wasn't the first time I felt connected to the land. So yeah, I think I have to go there, and I have to go to Japan. I want to own a Japanese sword at some point. I've seen it in a way, and I also want to take a friend who is very, very connected to Japanese culture, and she would love the trip. So I think it would be a great honor for me to take her there. And I also want to see Mount Fuji and walk. I don't know. There are so many things that I want to see in the world, and I think precisely because of the shaman connection with the city, I can now enjoy. If I travel to another place, I can now enjoy that place even more, because I've learned to enjoy my place even more. So I've also become aware that my body is my house, and if I treat it well, I actually plan to start training more. If I treat it well and I shape it as I want it to be, I can literally reshape the reality, the physical reality of every place I visit. Because I experience it differently. I can walk more. I can do other stuff. I obviously the appearance part is very important. People always, there are so many adages and axioms and statements that people learn to make, that we learn to make, that we don't really know what they mean. For example, appearances are not important, or what's inside is important. Yeah, what's inside is important, but if you don't have a good appearance, if you don't have an appearance that inspires or that attracts, that means there's something wrong inside. That means that your inside is not outing. I recently learned this thought. It's not outing nicely. Okay, like, you don't feel comfortable. There is something wrong with you.
There's like a harmonious feeling you get. So like even if someone's not the typical kind of definition of attractive, if they have like inner peace and they feel confident, it's like you can see it immediately, right?
Yeah. And in 2018, I made a huge decision in my life. I've never been great at workouts. It's been really difficult for me, and I'm currently resuming this process. But at one point, I lived in Guarenas, which is a place like 30 kilometers from here to the east. And there was a gymnasium, very close to where I lived. And I've never been there. And I was coming back from somewhere, and the bus took me right before that place. And let's drop down here. And I entered, and I checked the information, and the next morning I went there and enrolled and started working out.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think, I just did. And it was difficult the first 2 or 3 weeks, like keeping up. But there is something with this place. There are some energies. This is a place which is specifically attuned for people working out all day.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the energy that this place gives you when you enter. That's why gyms, that's why athletic centers, that's why stadiums
Mm-hmm.
are useful to boost this energy, because they were created for that, and they are constantly receiving this energy flow. Everyone is listening to very beaty music, and everyone is doing their workouts, and everyone is in tune with this energy. So it helps you when you go to that place. It helps you keep up, because you feel challenged and you feel inspired at the same time. Like, these people, I see these people and they all have better bodies than me. There are some who don't, but most of them have better bodies than me.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not internally, maybe they are sick, maybe they are weak, maybe they are other things, but they look great.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the energy of the place inspires you to keep moving and inspires you to keep working out. And I did that for 2 years. I'd never done that before. I worked out with dedication 4 days in a week, and I changed my diet, and I changed my perspectives about workout, and I changed my appearance, which I'm working on this right now as we speak. And I felt the change. People treat you differently. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. People just treat you differently,
Yeah.
because uh, not only because you perceive yourself as more beautiful, therefore you exteriorize this beauty, but also because you do look beautiful. You do look great, and you look healthy, and you look tall, and you look strong, and people feel that vibe, and you get inspired by that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it also to inspire the world and to elevate the vibration of the place.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, those were my best years in Buenos. I connected to the place. I took pictures of the place. I edited videos of the place, and I just loved living there. And I didn't think it was possible, because it was a very dreary place. It's
Which
really dreary.
where exactly is that?
That's Guarenas is, I talked to you about Petare. Petare is like maybe 10 kilometers from here.
Okay.
And from Petare to Guarenas, there were like 24, 28 kilometers. I don't remember which one.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and you had to stand in line, sometimes for hours, to get in the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could only sleep in the bus, because there was no point in pulling your cell phone, because you could lose it.
Yeah.
So you majorly slept in the bus, because
Uh,
you did this mornings and afternoons every day,
so it's kind
six
of a
hours waiting.
dangerous place, or
It wasn't actually dangerous, but the places you had to go to take the bus where
okay.
I lived were dangerous, because the people who were willing to do that, they haunted these places precisely because they knew a lot of people went there to wait for the bus, and they were defenseless there in the street.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's speaking. A lot of things happened for that to change. Some of them very horrid. There were there was a pronounced spike of lynchings here, public lynchings in 2016. I had to document that. I had to document also lootings, a bunch of
Lynchings for what?
for crimes,
Uh,
robbery, sometimes perceived, sometimes real, um, assaults at homes and
mhm.
stuff like that. invasions, home invasions as well, but mostly crime. Mostly someone tried to steal from someone or trying to kill someone. And some, I don't dare say that most of these situations were fake, like there was no crime committed at the moment, and people just reacted to some kind of danger. But there were a lot of them that were completely fabricated. There was nothing going on there, and the people being hurt still were hurt, and some of them died. Fortunately, not most of them died, but some of them were left completely incapacitated for the event. And sometimes police did this to people as well during protests. So it's a lot, and I had to document all of that. So it was a very difficult time in my life. I lived there for 11 years, and there was a point in which it was easier for me to go up and down because there were certain measures taken for the specific transit of buses throughout a specific time of the day, because the traffic was so heavy that the buses just didn't get in time. And there were very few of them as well. And there was an issue with gasoline as well. So you can imagine the compounded issues. So you could stand there waiting for a bus for 3 hours easily, every day. And then 3 hours back as well. So 6 hours a day. 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. But in the weekends it was easier because people didn't leave their homes so much, so it was easier on the buses. Still, you had to stand there for hours beneath the sun, beneath the rain, in dangerous places, you name it. Then I moved here, and I am completely sure that I got to move here because I learned to live better there.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's whatever situation you're in, it's like you change something, it's like suddenly you find yourself in a new apartment or a new city.
Yeah, and my experience there was very valuable, extremely valuable, because also Guarenas is the birthplace of Chavismo, kind of, because it was in Guarenas where the protest that gave birth to the political movement of Chavismo started. It was caused there by them. It was instigated.
What exactly is Chavismo, though?
Chavismo is the regime. Chavismo is the ideological movement of Chavez, Hugo Chavez. And it continues to be technically in control because they still sit in power, but they have no control over the land anymore. And they are right now, basically, they've given up on trying to fight the United States. So they don't have the muscle, and Putin is obviously otherwise engaged, and China is otherwise engaged. So and Iran is otherwise engaged. Everyone is otherwise engaged, and Venezuela is no longer relevant for the tyrannies of the world. So here comes the United States, and they got a deal recently here with the governing party, because they don't have strength anymore to negotiate. So, and they've been that for a while. There was a point in which they unleashed the entire strength of their violence. It was horrific. But after that, they deflated very rapidly, and now they've also, many of them have died from horrible diseases, and they are weakened, extremely weakened. So they have no control over the land, and they are engaged in tough wars as well, because they are not a cohesive body. And this is something that happens a lot with tyrannies. They break apart because the people in them don't trust each other, essentially. some of them may be loyal to the governing party or to the leader, which are not the same thing. But most of them fend for themselves, and they know they are alone in this jackal's land. So they create their turfs, and at some point these turfs involve even security forces. Here security forces belong to people. There are people in control of security forces, and each body has a kind of autonomy and their own procedures, which nobody talks about and nobody can investigate at all. Nobody has access to that here. But what you see is that these turf wars, although they aren't very public yet, they are continually chipping away at their strength. Everyone's strength lessens because of it, while people, normal people, doing their job and creating businesses and having these dialogues and these conversations, they are creating the new country. As they kill each other, as they try to negotiate with criminals, just as bad as them or worse. So, and not only here, because they also, Chavez was a very powerful figure, okay? A very, 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 very profoundly powerful figure. And so much so that if you talk to someone about Venezuela, a foreigner, not a Venezuelan, if you talk to someone about Venezuela, the first thing that comes up is Chavez. It puts us in the world arena, in a way, with his very presence. He was also a very powerful shaman himself, and very powerful in mystical arts. Yes, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I never heard that. And you mentioned something about leaders being into that kind of occult or something, but I never.
Yeah, all of them are.
Really?
All of them are. All of them, because
do you think that's the case in other countries too, though?
Yeah, it's the same country. It was the same with the Nazis. It was the same with the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. It was the same with Russia. That's why Rasputin was so important to the history of Russia, because in Russia, spirituality is extremely strong. Mexico has a very strong Latin America in general has a very strong spiritual energy, and the United States also has this, but it's very niche, because there is an issue with the slavery. There is an issue with the genocide against American Indians, and all of this is weighing on this knowledge, on this heritage. But it's there in the earth, in the very ground, in the very places that people visit. That's why I want to promote this renewed connection with the land, through cities first, through monuments, through natural monuments later, landscape and stuff. Because the more we connect with the land, the more we understand the phenomena we are experiencing socially, politically, religiously, because all of that is that's there. The land is our book. We just have to read it.